There is already ranking of top point guards and shooting guards in 2025 on my channel. Today I move up yet another spot on the position scale to look at the best small forwards in the association. The top of this list has various future first ballot Hall of Famers, but the depth isn't quite what it once was. With how versatile big men are expected to be today, some players who would have been small forwards 5 years ago are now playing power forwards. Hence, why small forward depth around the league has taken a bit of a hit. Regardless, check out the top 10 small forwards in the NBA for the 2025 season below. Number 10. Mikal Bridges. The New York Knicks had to feel they were one very good starting wing away from true title contention, considering what they gave up for former Villanova standout Mikal Bridges this summer, acquiring him from the Brooklyn Nets for 4 unprotected first-round picks, an unprotected pick swap and a top 4 protected first-round pick in 2025, among other smaller assets. That's a huge haul for Bridges, one that at a first glance can arguably be labeled an overpay. However, considering how close the Knicks appear to be to title contention, the Bridges pickup might be the final piece of the championship puzzle for New York, especially considering he'll be sharing the wing with OG Anunoby, who just barely missed the cut on my ranking. Bridges wasn't able to keep up the All-Star level pace he showed in his first half season in Brooklyn, regressing to being merely a good starter last season. But it's possible, if not likely, that Bridges going back to being a third option on offense, like he projects to be in New York next season, will help him get back to his most impactful version. A star role player who can score from 3 or the mid-range, space the floor or slash, and most importantly, defend at high level on the defensive end. Number 9. Scottie Barnes. He reminds me of a Swiss Army knife on the court. Barnes can do a bit of everything on both ends of the floor, and at a high level too. On top of being named an All-Star for the first time in his career last season, Barnes also became just the 4th player ever to post 19, 8 and 6 stat line at 22 years old or younger, joining a prestigious list featuring Luka Doncic, Magic Johnson and Oscar Robertson. 2 Hall of Famers and 1 player on his way to first ballot Hall of Fame honors. Not bad company there for Barnes. On top of his ability to score, rebound and bring the ball down the create for teammates, the former Florida State standout is also an extremely versatile defender who has long arms, quick feet and a tenacity to him on the less glamorous end of the floor. Barnes can pick pockets, block shots and jump passing lanes, as well as defend one-on-one on the perimeter, making him a very unique weapon on defense with all defensive team potential in the future. Barnes will need to continue working on his jumper if he's going to hit that next level of a player, the All-NBA tire. But even on that end, things look promising for the Raptors, as Barnes went from 28% from 3 as a second-year player to 34% this past season. Another leap like that for Barnes could really change things for him. Number 8. Brandon Ingram. Based on his growth early on in his career, many believed Brandon Ingram would at least be a perennial All-Star player by this point. Instead, he seemingly maxed out his potential by his 4th season back in 2022, the lone All-Star campaign of his career, never really improving his impact of production since then, instead hovering around the same level. Still, that level is pretty impressive, as Ingram just put up a 21, 5 and 6 season on 49% shooting from the floor. It just felt like the former Duke standout could have been more by now, leading many to be disappointed at what Ingram has turned out to be, which might not be all that fair. After all, if Ingram played in the Eastern Conference, he might be an All-Star every year. He just has the misfortune of playing in the Western Conference, so loaded with star wings. Even so, there is no question Ingram seemed like he would be further along by now. The Pelicans must feel that way too, as Ingram was one of the most mentioned names in trade rumors this past summer. Ingram has stagnated, there is no doubt about it. That leads to believe maybe Ingram's potential change of scenery could come by February's trade deadline. Number 7. DeMar DeRozan. After finishing top 3 in Clutch Player of the Year voting each of the last 2 seasons, 6-time All-Star DeMar DeRozan remains arguably the top mid-range assassin in the game today. a player at his finest getting throwback buckets from the area where the numbers say the least efficient baskets come from. DeRozan is doing well in fighting that belief, shooting nearly 50% from the floor over the past 6 seasons and averaging over 23 points and over 5 assists in that span. All in all, making him an elite offensive player. Last season, the Compton native ranked number 10 overall in offensive win shares, in case anyone wants to argue how elite DeRozan is on offense, by the way. Of course, there's also the other end of the floor to discuss, as DeRozan doesn't provide much in the way of defense, nor is he a very good three-point shooter, limiting his impact in the modern NBA. However, overall he's a plus for his team when he's on the floor, putting up very impressive numbers and, at 35 years old, not showing much signs of age-related regression. His numbers could finally take a hit in 2025, considering he'll have to share a lot of the ball with two recent All-NBA players in De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. And if he can help Sacramento get back into the playoffs, DeRozan will have a chance to prove he can be a high-level playoff performer too, something he hasn't quite been able to do thus far in his career. Number 6. Jimmy Butler. The season may have ended poorly for six-time All-Star Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, with Butler getting hurt in Miami's first play-in game and missing the rest of the playoffs after he sort of slept-walked through the regular season. The Heat would be eliminated in 5 games in the first round of the postseason by the Celtics after their surprising final strip the year prior. It's unclear how hand-in-hand that is with Miami choosing not to sign Butler to the max extension he was eligible for this summer. But either way, the star forward chose not to make a fuss about it, reportedly telling teams he was happy to stay in South Florida despite interest league-wide in his services this offseason. With all that said, Butler sleepwalking through a campaign still led to him ranking top 20 in most advanced statistics for 2024, while putting up 21.55 stat line. So clearly, Butler remains an elite two-way player when he's out there, particularly thanks to his mid-range scoring, much improved three-point output, and his ability to get to the foul line and knock down freebies at a high rate. For Butler, 2025 will be about proving he can stay healthy and not miss so much regular season time, especially if the soon-to-be 35-year-old is expecting to get one more huge contract in Miami. Number 5. Paul George. An All-Star in each of the last 2 seasons, New Philadelphia 76er forward, Paul George hasn't earned All-NBA honors since 2021 though. Maybe the change of scenery can fix that, as George remains an excellent two-way swingman with elite scoring ability. George was hugely efficient last season, shooting 47% from the floor, 41% from 3 and almost 91% from the foul line. The problem for George, and what in part keeps him off all NBA discussions for now, is that he doesn't get to the foul line enough to take advantage of that ridiculous accuracy from the charity stripe. Still, George can knock down hugely difficult shots, even over the best defending players, to put him right in that star tier with some of the game's best shot makers. He just depends on those difficult shots a little too often, which can end up proving costly late in tight games. When he goes cold with his shooting, George's impact on offense also greatly dwindles, as he's not the type of player who can get to the basket or the foul line whenever he wants for easy points. What could also hurt George's ability to earn another All-NBA nod is the fact that he'll be joining a team with an MVP candidate in Joel Embiid and an up-and-coming potential superstar in Tyrese Maxey. So shot attempts might be even less available than they were in Los Angeles for him. Regardless, I'm going to bank on his past production and his most recent season to say he will remain a top 5 small forward in basketball in 2025 thanks to his tough bucket getting and impactful defense. And if that is the case, the 76ers could make a major noise in the Eastern Conference and make Philadelphia a real contender. Number 4. Kawhi Leonard. Coming off a campaign in which he suited up in 68 regular season games, his highest total since 2017, two-time Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard still wasn't the epitome of good physical health, as he missed all of April and nearly all of May, while his Los Angeles Clippers fell in the first round of the playoffs. When healthy, Kawhi was still a beast, putting up great numbers very efficiently. His shooting splits were 52, 41 and 88, even more impressive considering how difficult his usual shot attempts are. he just once again wasn't all that available. And despite the fact there were some back and forth between the Clippers and Team USA as to why Leonard was sent home after doing training camp with the national team, the fact USA brass felt they would be better off with Celtics role player Derrick White over Leonard might be a bit of telling. Still, I choose to turn a blind eye to Leonard's last 4 months and expect him to bounce back for another big 2025 season. The fact that Paul George has departed Los Angeles also leads to believe Leonard could put up even more impressive numbers next season with more of the ball in his hands. Number 3. LeBron James. What is there left to say about the player who is the only one in GOAT discussion with Michael Jordan? LeBron James' battle against Father Time going so well in his favor continues to be awe-inspiring as he just finished with third-team All-NBA honors in his age 39 campaign, to become the first player ever to receive an All-NBA distinction that old. It was very much deserved too, as James hit a career-high 41% of his triples in the season, while putting up a huge 25-7-8 stat line. And despite his Los Angeles Lakers getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs in just 5 games, James went into the summer as Team USA's leader ahead of a very important Olympic tournament and more than stepped up, winning Olympic tournament MVP honors. James will be 40 by the time the calendar flips to 2025, and here I am, ranking him as the third best small forward for the 2025 season, and can you blame me? Until James shows much more serious signs of decline, I am going to keep him as a top 10 player in the league. In fact, at this rate, James will probably retire and still be considered one of the best current players in basketball. His game has just aged so well, as although he might have lost a touch of his alien-like athleticism from his young, he's more than made up for it by playing a hybrid power forward point guard mix at the 3, by becoming a nearly elite shooter from 3, and by remaining an absolute load to stop once he has a head of steam heading to the basket. All in all, just enjoy the time we have left watching James. It might not be that much more, but what we do have left to see out of him should continue to be special. Number 2. Kevin Durant. Now unquestionably the Team USA GOAT after becoming the first player to win 4 Olympic gold medals, while also becoming all-time leading scorer. Phoenix Suns small forward Kevin Durant remains nearly at the top of his game, placing top 10 in the MVP vote last season and earning second-team All-NBA honors. Durant is clutch, can get buckets over anyone thanks to his otherworldly size and length for a forward, and is also a solid rebounder and playmaker. He is also as efficient as they come for a high-volume shooter, posting shooting splits of 52, 41 and 85 last season, despite so many of his shot attempts coming with an elite degree of difficulty. He might not quite be at that peak level he was in his prime, but Durant remains roughly a top 15 player in the game overall, and we do not expect that to change in 25. I'm just hoping Phoenix point guard acquisition this summer help fix the Suns rotation and position issues from last year, because few players are as fun to watch on a deep playoff run as Durant is, as evidenced by his 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs. And finally, number 1, Jayson Tatum. Finishing 6th in the MVP vote last season and with his first straight first-team All-NBA nod, as well as with the first NBA championship of his career, Boston Celtics superstar Jayson Tatum also somehow has the luxury of entering 2025 with a chip on his shoulder, which for a player of his caliber can legitimately help provide a boost in the motivation department. That's because Tatum still has detractors after the excellent season and summer he just had. Those detractors will be quick to point out that not only did Tatum not win Finals MVP to cap Boston's dominant championship run, but he was also very much of a role player for Team USA, at times even not seeing the floor at all for entire games as the Americans march to their 5th straight Olympic gold medal. Tatum in my eyes will enter next season as the best small forward in the NBA. An elite scorer from all 3 levels, as well as a very good rebounder, playmaker and defender with an excellent size for the position. He may not have a Finals MVP yet, nor he was able to unseat the next 2 players on this list for minutes on Team USA this summer, but Tatum remains just 26, with so much of his prime left to go. That's it for today, thanks for watching the 3rd part of my ranking and I see you next time. Bye! Next time.